Great. Okay. You ready to go? Hi, everyone. We're ready to go. I'm so excited. We're doing Asia in the luxury market. Brighde, are you going to start the video?
Absolutely.
And then we'll have Margie introduce us.
Okay, one moment. I'll just share my screen. One moment.
And if you could just put in the chat where you're from and where you want to go.
Do you see? No, hang on.
It's okay.
Okay, do you see my screen there now?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, one moment. Okay.
And if everybody could just mute when they come in, that would be great.
All right. Okay, we'll get started.
Oh, we can't hear her. You have to unmute, yeah. There you go.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry.
Technical glitches.
Welcome to the 2021 Traveling in a New Vegan World. My name is Margie Jordan and I'll be your host for this event. Now, Traveling in a Vegan World was created by an amazing group of travel advisors and bloggers who wanted to showcase the best of the world to you and do it while traveling vegan. Grab your passports because over the next few days, we're going to visit some of our favorite destinations, including Europe, the UK, Asia, Canada, Central America, and the USA. We're going to be talking about the national parks, we're talking about cruises, and we're going to help you pick the right all-inclusive for your next vacay. It's going to be an incredible journey as we get you excited about traveling, enjoying the delicious vegan cuisine, and making an impact in local communities. Welcome, everyone. This is day 5. Have you been with us for the entire event? I hope you have. We've had a wonderful time showcasing the world to you. So tonight, guess what? You're gonna journey through Asia tonight and learn a little bit about vegan outreach through tourism. And you're gonna get a little touch of that luxury side. So you're not gonna wanna miss tonight. We have some amazing presenters for you. We have Brighde Reed, Paul Ayers, Zach Lovas, and Donna Zeigfinger tonight. So I'm gonna let them tell you more about Asia. Have a good event, and I will see you at the closing.
Yes, thank you, Margie. Margie's from Margie Travels, and she's a great on-air talent. So I just have a few house cleaning things to talk about. So if you could please mute everyone so we have no interruptions. And please post in the chat box if you have any questions. All questions will be answered at the end of each session. This is recorded and you can watch later, and you'll have access if you belong to the Facebook group. And I'll put the Facebook group link on there for those who are not on there. And if you're not on Facebook, you can message me or Jason or Jennifer, and we'll send you an invite via the YouTube link. So with that, take it away, Brighde, or who's next?
Okay. All right. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to start by introducing the things that we'll be talking about in today's session. We will have Paul from the famous vegan travel blog Vegan Food Quest. He's going to be talking about his adopted hometown of Siem Reap in Cambodia. I will be talking about how you might like to advocate for tourism, for veganism when you're traveling. And Zach from Veg Voyages, he's our expert on how we can advocate for veganism and cultural exchange through travel and food. And hopefully we will have some time at the end of our presentation to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. Over to Paul.
Thank you, Brighde, and thank you, Donna and Margie, for the introductions. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As Brighde said, I'm Paul Ayres, one half of Vegan Food Quest. We create vegan travel guides and vegan-friendly luxury hotel and resort reviews for Southeast Asia and beyond. Having travelled extensively in Southeast Asia for more than 20 years with my wife, we knew that one day we wanted to call this part of the world home. In January 2014, we turned our wanderlust dreams into reality by leaving England with one-way tickets to Bangkok. Fast forward 7 years, and we now call Siem Reap, Cambodia our home, and have spent these years exploring the region, creating a new life for ourselves and working hard to ensure that Siem Reap grows as a vegan-friendly destination. We're happy cow ambassadors for Siem Reap, which we love. In our opinion, it's the essential app for anyone who loves vegan food and vegan travel as much as we do. Our Vegan Cambodia Facebook group has proved to be very informative and an interactive platform for residents and travellers alike, so much so that we also created a Vegan Vietnam group as it's our neighbouring country. Both groups continue to grow in line with the growth of veganism in the region. We've welcomed guests from all over the world to Vegan Villa, our vegan Airbnb in Siem Reap, and we've worked with and supported restaurants and hotels in their own efforts to introduce delicious plant-based food to their menus, offering staff training to F&B teams and menu consultancy where required to strengthen their knowledge of veganism. We've even helped local supermarkets to source and stock an ever-growing array of imported vegan products. In recent years, as vegan travel has grown exponentially, we've collaborated with tour operators and travel agents to ensure that their clients have the perfect vegan holiday, creating itineraries, connecting them with the best vegan-friendly places to stay, and even hosting travellers for one-day city tours in their chosen destinations. So when we were asked to join this series of virtual vegan travel events and offer our insights into vegan travel and how our outreach work with travellers, hotels and restaurants has helped the scene develop, we jumped at the opportunity. Next slide, please. Yes, Siem Reap is our home. We love it here. I'm sure many of you will know that the incredible temples of Angkor are located here, which rightly so are a bucket list destination for travellers from around the globe. The iconic view over the water of the temples at sunrise has been captured countless times. One of our tips is to visit at sunset also, when the sky, clouds and temples create stunning reflections in the water. In Cambodia, we've remarkably avoided any serious COVID outbreak. We're one of the few countries in the world that have registered 0 deaths, and the running total as of now is around 400. The borders were effectively closed early in March 2020, and to this day, very strict entry measures remain in place involving multiple tests and government-assigned mandatory quarantine for all. Despite the limited health impacts, as a tourist town, or primarily as a tourist town, Siem Reap has suffered economically more than you can ever imagine. With limited government support and no other viable industries, businesses have closed and people have lost their jobs. Many people are desperate and some are even starving. A number of our favourite hotels, including Treeline Urban Resort, who we mention later because of their delicious vegan food, have worked hard to fundraise and support those most in need during these times, with an ongoing initiative called Hotels Joining Hands. It's been positive and refreshing to see the tourist industry, who are suffering themselves, still continue to help others. Next slide, please. For those of you lucky enough to be some of the first tourists to visit Siem Reap post-COVID, you can expect the unique opportunity to visit the simply remarkable Angkor Wat and other equally as impressive temples in the region without the crowds. The general consensus is it will take a number of years before the arrivals reach those that we were experiencing pre-COVID. We've been blessed to have them on our doorstep during the whole period, and spending our time exploring the temples and the surrounding jungle is something we will never get bored of. It was still possible to be amazed by the temples, even with the huge crowds. You just needed a creative itinerary and a knowledgeable guide to find sanctuary amongst the chaos. Simply visiting midweek and/or off-season makes a big difference. One of my co-hosts, Brighde, previously led tour groups to Siem Reap and Angkor Wat, so I'm sure she can attest to the huge crowds and trying to avoid them.
Yeah, I totally can. I was tour leading through Cambodia nearly 20 years ago, maybe 18 years or so ago or so. And it was just incredible, particularly at sunrise, just how busy it was, and trying to get photos without lots of people in it was sometimes rather frustrating. So yeah, if you are able to go when it's not so busy, I think it would definitely be a good thing.
Thanks, Brighde. In addition to the temples, Siem Reap has so much more to offer, and our friends at Grasshopper Adventures and Far Circus created a short video last year called Stay for Siem Reap, which they've shared with us so we can share with you. Far Circus is a social enterprise that has continued to promote and champion the arts in Cambodia throughout the COVID crisis. Just to clarify, there are no animals at this circus, just highly skilled human beings who've mastered their art. Anyone visiting Siem Reap should include a show at this highly entertaining and socially responsible circus. And you can now even enjoy a vegan meal at their cafe pre-show. Grasshopper Adventures are considered to be the leading mountain bike tour company in the region, and we've joined their tours in many other countries in addition to Cambodia. They'll guide you on an adventure where you will explore, enjoy, and be amazed by your chosen location. And don't worry, they will ensure that local and delicious plant-based food is plentiful.
Paul, can I interrupt for just a second? I want to say, if anybody's Far Circus, I introduced Paul to Craig, the management there, and he goes like, "What do you go like every week now?"
We're going again this weekend, and that will be 3 weeks on the trot since they reopened. They were recently closed for the second time due to enforced government closures, so because of COVID. So we're supporting however we can.
I have seen this show because it came to Washington, D.C., and I will tell you, it's fabulous. Like, if you don't do anything else in Cambodia, you have to do this show. It's amazing. And one of the actors, one of the performers, is now with Cirque du Soleil. So.
Yeah, which was an amazing transition for someone who came up through Far to then be performing on, well, possibly the most famous circus in the world. So right. Yeah, it's fantastic news that was.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Where was I? During these unusual times when multi-destination travel might not be as simple, we feel that tourists will want to visit one location and stay for longer, exploring locally and digging deeper into the culture and surrounding environment. This was mentioned by Gretchen from Vegan Travel Club in a previous session, and it's something we wholly agree with. Therefore, we believe it's the perfect time to extend your Siem Reap trip, and we hope this video shows you some of the wonderful experiences you can expect to enjoy. Come for Angkor Wat, stay for Siem Reap. Please play the video. Thank you. Yeah, as you will have guessed, the aim of the beautiful video was to educate tourists and travelers so they're aware that Siem Reap has so much more to offer in addition to the temples. However, we feel that there was something missing, and that is to tell everyone that they should also stay in Siem Reap for the vegan food. From accidentally vegan street food in the local markets to multi-course vegan fine dining in award-winning restaurants and luxury hotels, there really is something for everyone. But so many options make it tough to choose our favorites. So what we've done today is create a short film, our own sequel to Stay for Siem Reap, that will highlight 3 talented local Cambodian chefs who are creating plant-based food that will certainly put a smile on your face as it does ours on a regular basis. We hope you enjoy our film, and we'd love it if it inspires you to visit Siem Reap one day. It was the least we could do, to support these vegan-friendly chefs who continue to create and innovate with their mouth-watering plant-based dishes. So come for Angkor Wat, stay for the vegan food.
I'm drooling again. I'm sorry I didn't prepare people to tell them to have dinner before they come in.
I'm super hungry, and that's made me even more hungry. It's only just gone 7 a.m. here, and preparing for this, I've not had any breakfast yet, just a cup of mint tea. So yeah, I'm starving. Okay, so what was the best thing about making that video a couple of weeks ago? Well, getting to spend time with my favourite chefs in Siem Reap and eating all of the amazing dishes that were created for the film. I obviously couldn't let them go to waste. Chef Shantria is the executive chef at Hock Noodle Bar, which is the flagship restaurant at Treeline Urban Resort. Having been lucky enough to be involved with him and his amazing team from the beginning, as they created plant-based dishes and menus for the hotel and the restaurant, we can confidently say this is now one of the most vegan-friendly luxury hotels or resorts in the region. Our film shows dishes including bangers and hash from the vegan breakfast menu, which we seriously can't get enough of, and these delightful nom krok, which you can see in the picture now. You can find nom krok all over the region. They're called kanon krok in Thailand, but you will struggle to find such a refined version of this Southeast Asian street food staple. Chef Pola is the owner of Ban Lai, which is an all-veggie restaurant serving vegan versions of local favourites. Also dishes including his take on vegan fish and chips using locally grown banana flour. The restaurant is in a converted Khmer wooden house and set within its very own organic vegetable garden, which is a huge passion for Chef Pola. Whilst chatting with him during filming at Ban Lai, he said, "Vegetables offer endless opportunities for cooking and creating, which we just loved from a chef who has grown up in a country that traditionally sees vegetables as a side dish." He even undertakes his very own vegan outreach. Just a couple of weeks ago, he had a restaurant full of local teenagers enjoying his food, whilst he spoke to them about just how exciting, healthy and beneficial a plant-based diet can be. They loved his food, which is no surprise, and were full of questions, which certainly bodes well for the future. Dishes featured in the movie included his mushroom lok lak, which is every bit as flavour-packed as the Khmer classic meat-centric version, according to our Khmer friends. And pictured is this healthy and nutritious bowl of nom ban chok, which is rice noodles with mixed vegetables in a curry soup, topped with herbs and edible flowers from the garden. And last but by no means least, Chef Sehar is the owner of Jomno, where diners can choose from a variety of vegan dishes that are thoughtfully created and beautifully plated. He continues to add to and amend the plant-based items on his menu in an effort to serve delicious vegan food to his customers. In our opinion, Chef Seha is succeeding on many levels. We love his street food styled eatery in the shadows of Wat Damnak and support him however we can. You can see his innovative take on a sausage roll in our film, which is delicately diced and seasoned vegetables wrapped in a green leaf to replace the pastry. The photo you can see now is of taro cakes and tofu cubes in a light curry sauce, which tastes divine. Our continued vegan outreach in Siem Reap with hotels, restaurants, chefs, travelers, and even supermarkets is something that we love and feel passionate about. We really want to share that with you, so make sure to join the closing session tomorrow, where you can win an excellent prize package we've put together. This includes a 2-night stay at the super vegan friendly luxury resort Treeline, a vegan meal from Chef Chantria at Hock, and tickets to attend the excellent Fire Circus. Next slide, please. Final slide, actually. Thank you. In addition, for any of you planning a trip to Siem Reap or Cambodia, please feel free to reach out and we'll help however we can. Every little bit that we can all do to limit the consumption of animal-based ingredients is positive for animals, humans, and the planet alike, which makes it all worthwhile. We know that Brighde shares the same passion, and after a chance meeting a few years back in Singapore, we've stayed in touch, discussing multiple collaborations and projects until now, when we are happy to be co-hosting this session with her. So over to Brighde.
Thank you, Paul. Hi everyone. I'm Brighde, and I started working in tourism as a tour leader in Southeast Asia nearly 20 years ago. I started tour leading in Southeast Asia, and that led to a 5-year tour leading stint on 3 different continents. I met my partner, Seb, in Morocco, and we settled down in Vietnam. Since then, we've lived in Thailand, Indonesia, back in Thailand before moving to Canada last year. 3 years ago, we decided to put our love of traveling, showing people around, and veganism to create World Vegan Travel, a luxury group tour company for vegans and vegan curious who want to explore the world in style. So far, we've run trips in Thailand, Vietnam, Rwanda, which is an interesting destination, and France, with lots more on the cards. So I want to talk a little bit today about how you might like to do some vegan outreach as you are traveling. Of course, it's entirely up to you how much outreach you want to do when you are traveling. If you do a lot of activism at home, for example, you might really want a break from that. So, you know, these are just lots of ideas. You can pick and choose from any of these ideas that you like, and I also encourage you to think about the amount of time you want to invest into doing any activism or outreach when you go to a place. For example, if you're just staying in a city hotel for 1 night, it's probably not worth a big investment of time and energy. But if you're doing a 1-week river cruise through Europe, for example, then it might be more worth the effort. So as someone who has taken groups of up to 27 people to Rwanda, a country that doesn't have yet a single completely vegan restaurant, and I've worked with these hotels, restaurants, and local operators, these are the things that I do when taking groups. And I should add that I often do many or all of these things when I just do my own personal travel as well. So before the trip, before I'm going to arrive there, I always make sure that I send an email to the accommodation provider or the tour provider or a special restaurant. And I always send a very friendly message to the contact email address. I like to reach out to the food and beverage manager or the general manager, if at all possible, or at least get their name. I explain what vegan is and why we do it. Sometimes I'll link a little presentation or something that just shows in a non-graphic way what veganism is about. Then I will tell them just how excited it is excited I am to come to stay there. I'll also share my observations of the food so far and any easy substitutions they can make. I also like to try to connect them with any local suppliers if I happen to know any. Here you'll see just a little screenshot of like a little email that I might send. This was one that I sent to our French hotel that we used in France. So as you can see, I'm linking to products, linking to recipes, all of these kinds of things. Okay, so during the trip, when I arrive at the hotel or at the start of the tour, I let them know who I am. And I name drop the person that I've been communicating with. I say things like, oh, I've been speaking with this person. I would love to meet them quickly and say hi. People who work in hospitalities, they really love to be hospitable. Really, they do. And they love to talk with people and they want to work with you and they want to provide a good service. So I recommend trying to find that person and having a quick chat. Also, during my stay, I let them know whether it's going really well or if it's not. I love to send photos or videos to my contact person and let them know the names of staff that have done a super job. This really goes a long way if you're going to give some suggestions for improvements. Consider making a few really fun posts on social media highlighting any efforts they've made. Someone in marketing will definitely notice. Towards the end of your stay, you might like to have a short meeting with your contact person, ask them how they think it went, suggest how they might change their menu when they do their next reprint, how they might have symbols next to the items, whether something could be made vegan or if something is vegan. You can also let them know if they become more vegan friendly, they could become listed on Happy Cow. Interestingly, I've said this to many restaurants and many hotels, and hardly anyone other than vegans know about this app. Once you explain to them that this is a really important app and they will get a lot of vegans who will travel far to visit a vegan-friendly restaurant or hotel, they will get a lot of people coming to visit them. I also explained the incentives on focusing on this. They could maybe even get listed on a site like Veggie Hotels, for example. You might also have some other suggestions as well. For example, do they have brochures for elephant riding in the lobby? What was the mini bear like? Is there a deer head on the wall, perhaps? Explain why this is not great and how it appears when looking through a vegan lens. And this reminds me of a time when I was staying in an Airbnb in Switzerland, in a small village in Switzerland. And it was quite a busy time and there wasn't a lot of availability, but we found this really lovely Airbnb. And when I looked at the photos, I saw that there was this big deer head on the wall. I didn't like it, obviously, but I had no other choice. So I booked this Airbnb. And it was lovely. And at the end, the owner of the house came and talked to me and he was asking for feedback. And I said, well, you know, I almost didn't book this place because of the deer head in the wall. And he was absolutely shocked to think that someone would be put off by this. And, you know, I don't know whether he would have taken the deer head off the wall, but just by saying that, then maybe he might think a little bit about that and just realize how certain things might look to different kinds of guests. And I also make a point of thanking everyone in the hotel that I've had involvement with before I leave, and if I'm able to, give a nice tip. So Paul, I know you want to add something about the elephants, is that right? Or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm sorry.
Okay. I can happily just quickly comment and back up what you've said about linking with the hotel as early as possible and as often as possible prior to your stay, during your stay and after your stay. Of course, prior to your stay and during your stay will help you, and after your stay will help the next vegan guests. We haven't led tours to as many hotels and regions as you, but we've worked with and reviewed probably around 200 luxury hotels and resorts in the region, and stayed at many others. And all of the time, it's about making that personal connection, which, yes, the initial email helps, but as you said, once you get there, get to meet the F&B manager, get to meet the executive chef, get to meet someone who, like you say, works in hospitality and is excited about their job and working in, you know, one of the finest hotels in the region. They're going to look after you. You know, we've had some excellent meals, even when they've not been expecting us. So yes, it's all about communication, both prior, during, and after.
And I wanted to jump in quickly and just say, if you're working with a travel agent will do that for you. They will connect with the hotel. They'll make sure to do that before, during, and after, and are always there to support you too. So don't feel like you have to do it on your own. You can have somebody who's advocating for you on your behalf.
Yeah, that's so true. There are many ways to approach them, but it's just absolutely essential that you do. So whether it's through your tour company or your travel agent, or personally, or even if you're planning to stay at any of the hotels that I've mentioned or mentioned on my website, you know, reach out to me personally, and I'll happily do my best to put you in touch with the right person, so they listen to you and know that you're coming. It's what it's all about, because it makes it easier for the next guests also.
Thank you. So after your visit, it's a really great idea, if you have the time and the inclination, to consider following up with your contact person. After our trips that we run, I'll often reach out to the restaurants or the hotels and just ask them for feedback on how their experience was. So these were a couple of the bits of feedback that we got from Flute Restaurant in Rwanda, in Kigali in Rwanda, and also the Marriott Hotel in Kigali. It's really great as well if you can write accurate but helpful reviews on all of the platforms, Facebook reviews, TripAdvisor, and so on. GMs of hotels check these reviews very carefully, whether we like them or not. And in this day and age, we know that reviews are vital, and low ratings can mean less business. They really take them very seriously. So if you are traveling with a group of three people, if you can get everybody to write a review, if they don't want to, you can write a review and they can just copy it and paste it into the review as well. That will be really helpful. So this next slide was a short interview. It's just a segment of a conversation that I had, and Colleen and I had, after working with Vanessa. Vanessa is the GM of a hotel that we've spent 3 trips there in total, 3 one-week trips, and we have most of our meals here. And this is a hotel in deep Alsace, where it is not particularly vegan friendly outside of the big cities, and they really stepped up to the challenge. I've just got a little segment of the video, but I think you will notice that she has a really great attitude, and she really appreciates the opportunity to try something different.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question? Yeah. How do you think this will continue to influence you as you move forward?
We can see that when the guest is calling, just to make reservation for individual person or groups, they just ask more for vegan and vegan thing. So now we know how to do it. We have the product, we know where to find it. Mm-hmm. So yes, for us in the region, it's very nice, like for a restaurant like us, to have one menu vegan. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the start of something. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we will see in the future. Yeah. But maybe we will start with these menus.
Okay. So this is in France, a very unvegan friendly country outside of the big cities, and her team just really stepped up to the challenge. Okay. So moving on to helping animals or people, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you might do this. As vegans, we're often very cautious about supporting places that might be inadvertently supporting animal or human exploitations. There are a few ways that you can mitigate the risks of doing this. So for example, you might like to Google something like show socially responsible restaurants in, and then add them to a list. You might also Google sanctuaries and the destination. For example, Google's sanctuaries and Chiang Mai. So, you know, you might create a list of places that you think that you might like to visit. Then, of course, we need to vet them a little bit. And there are a few ways that I recommend doing that. You can check out some TripAdvisor reviews of various attractions. There might be some reviews on there that will give you some insight. You can also check out some sanctuaries, and then also reach out to some local online vegan groups who will be able to tell you whether some of these places seem like they are legitimate sanctuaries or not. They will likely know. So this can help you navigate this possible problem area. I also recommend when you go and visit these places, whether it's sanctuaries or enterprises, social enterprises, really spend some time learning more about them, what it is that they are doing, what would they like to do more of, what projects are they working on. If you want to post on social media, you can make your posts as informative as possible. Tag them, share informative posts that they have made to educate people more about this issue. Make your posts public and tag them so they can share them too. Now, a lot of people tell me that they really worry that they might go and visit a place that could be exploitative. Of course, that's very upsetting for us if we do that, but we can then use our voice to let other people know about it. For example, you can write reviews, you can tell vegan groups in the area so they know about it, you can take pictures. And I just want to invite you to just be careful with any review that you write, doesn't contravene their review policies. If you say things like animals should not be kept in cages or animals should be free, your review will not be published and it will disappear into the ether. So this is especially the case with TripAdvisor. So make sure that you check the review guidelines to make sure that what you are writing, which, you know, is true, but might not get published. Okay, so this is really a bit of a problem in Southeast Asia with elephant sanctuaries, so-called elephant sanctuaries. There are some amazing elephant sanctuaries out there. However, there are some people, some organizations or companies, I should say, that are sort of jumping on this sort of sanctuary bandwagon, seeing how successful these real sanctuaries are, and they're actually still continuing to exploit the animals, perhaps not with riding them, but they might still be chained up or they might still be bred. So I know Paul and Zach have some words to say about Ellie's too. So I'll pass over to Paul.
What was fantastic news just last year prior to COVID stopping the whole world spinning was that you can now no longer ride elephants within the Angkor Archaeological Park. It was simply fantastic news that we'd hoped for many years. Some of you may be aware that this was a common practice with tourists from all over the world and all ages paying their, I don't know how much it was, to ride an elephant up to in and around Bayonne, which is one of the temples within the park. You know, you may have seen in the news about 3 years ago, one of those elephants dropped dead due to heat exhaustion. They're basically chained to a tree at the foot of the temples during the day until someone comes along to ride them. So anyway, after many campaigns and continued pressure on the owners of the elephants, yes, these elephants were owned by a local hotel owner, it was made illegal starting on January the 1st last year. The elephants from the Angkor Park have now been moved to their new home just an hour from Siem Reap called Kulen Elephant Forest Sanctuary. Due to COVID and the restrictions that have been in place, we've not had the chance to visit, so we cannot offer any first-hand information. And as Brighde said, we just need to be really careful and do our due diligence when visiting any sanctuary, because a lot of countries, well, let's just speak about Cambodia, there's very little restriction to me buying elephants and opening a sanctuary with no idea of how to look after them and make sure that they're in a non-exploitative environment. But safe to say that this is a far better life for the elephants at Kulen Elephant Forest Sanctuary than being chained to a tree at Bayonne Temple waiting for the next tourist to pay. Elephants always make good stories, and none more so than the story of Kavan, who was assigned the rather sad title of the world's loneliest elephant just a couple of months ago, due to living a solitary life in a Pakistan zoo. Cher, yes, that's Cher, the US pop star, used her influence and social media reach to champion his cause, whilst Four Paws, an animal welfare organisation, arranged his transfer from Pakistan to a new home at another Cambodian sanctuary. If you didn't see the bizarre sight of a Russian cargo plane touching down at Siem Reap Airport a few months ago, and bear in mind this is at a time when probably 1 or 2 planes a week land at Siem Reap Airport due to no tourism, it's worth Googling for more information about this heartwarming story. Personally, we're big fans of Elephant Valley Project in Mondulkiri, who are considered by many to be Cambodia's premier elephant sanctuary since opening their doors 15 years ago. With the motto of let them roam free, it is a wonderful place to visit and an excellent organisation to support. They've got various short and long-term volunteer programs, and from what we can see, are transparent in their mission and ethical in their actions. For Christmas this year, we sponsored an elephant for our niece, which seemed far more worthwhile than the usual gifts that we would buy for her. Elephant Valley Project is a long drive from Siem Reap, but for those of you who are planning an extended trip, this would be high on our list of recommendations. Over to Zach.
Yes, I just chime in a little bit here. It's good to see there is a lot of positive change slowly beginning to happen on the subject of elephants. For example, in Nepal, animal rights activists across Nepal have joined together to launch a campaign to ban elephant riding and exploitation there. Youth on the front line of the campaign including, we put up their logo here, the Animal Rights Club of Nepal activists, and they're actually from the Chitwan, where a lot of the exploitation takes place. Their campaign includes setting up a website, which is almost complete now, exposing the conditions of the elephants and actually listing hotels that own them so people can make ethical decisions when booking their hotel. They're also setting up a campaign, which actually has just went on change.org, petitioning and lobbying the government to ban elephant riding and trade officially in the country, as well as promoting the government to assist in setting up a sanctuary, like what Paul was talking about, for all these elephants being used for rides currently. Like Brighde and Paul said, supporting legitimate local animal sanctuaries and welfare organizations really helps out a lot. And there's a lot being done right now by local activists who, like activists everywhere in the world, could really use the help and support. Thank you, Brighde.
Thank you. Okay, so after your trip, there's a really amazing thing that you can do as you're reflecting and thinking about your trip, and you might start thinking about possibly there are some ways that you could give back to the place that you have spent some time. You can maybe raise some money or perhaps use your skills to help these organizations. And I'm really excited to welcome Sandy to talk about this little project, well, not so little actually, that she undertook after visiting Rwanda. So Sandy, would you like to unmute yourself and could you tell us a little bit about this lovely project you did?
Sure. So thanks for letting me share this. When I was with Brighde and the group, and we in Rwanda, and we visited Akagera National Park and got to go on a safari, we got a behind-the-scenes tour of their the dogs that they use for poaching. They're their anti-poaching canine unit. And this is the picture I took. I was very sad when I saw that their bed was a wooden platform, as you can see in the picture there. And you know, very disturbed by it. And I know some people from our group did not even want to go over there to see them because they had ethical reasons about not wanting dogs working. And so that, no matter whether you agree with that or not, dogs deserve a good place to sleep. So it took me a while because that was 1.5 years ago. So I feel terrible it took me so long. I asked them when I was there if they would allow me to look into sending really great dog beds there. I have worked with Bubba's Beds for Shelter Friends, who give raise money and give beds to shelter dogs, Kuranda beds, which are pretty indestructible. They're great for shelters. They're raised up off the floor. They don't have cushions that can rot and get wet and stinky. They have nice canvas things that just pad the bones of the dog. And they were very receptive. They said, wow, that would be wonderful. Yeah. So, and the guy gave me his card and said, just contact me when you get back home and we'll communicate about that. So it took me a year and a half, unfortunately, but within a month or less, I raised enough money. The shipping is ridiculous. That 15 beds, that's how many they wanted. They have 14 dogs. They did have 15, but we decided to just go ahead and send them 14. They don't think they'll have more dogs than that at Akagera. I asked them if they wanted more beds, and the beds will be shipped out possibly this week. I was just in communication. The time frame is really fun trying to communicate with Rwanda because it takes 2 days pretty much for one email back and forth, but people donated. Also, Bubba's Beds for Shelter Friends let me use them as the organization. So all donations were tax deductible, and during the month of December, they had a grant to double all of the donations. So all I had to raise was $1,800. That actually ended up being more because we found another company that have almost identical beds to Kuranda, except they're easier to assemble, and they donated every bed. So all we're paying is shipping, and then the import taxes we will reimburse Akagera for. So that was pretty exciting. I know it's only 15 dogs or 14 dogs, and it was a lot of money for beds for that many dogs, but you know what? They deserve it. They're hardworking dogs. And if I can just take like 30 seconds, one other thing I posted on there, I went with Zach and Veg Voyages to Thailand. Hi, Zach.
Hi, Sandy.
And I had been in contact with Soy Dog Foundation, that they are in Phuket, and they are always looking for flight volunteers to bring dogs back to Europe, Canada, and the USA on certain airlines. That if you're a flight ambassador, the dogs are in cargo much shorter time and it costs much less for them to fly back. You don't have to do a thing. They do all paperwork. You get to meet the dogs at the airport if you want. And then their new family is waiting for them at the airport when you get off your plane. For me, it was in Seattle. And I just got to say, hi, here's your dogs. And we all hugged. So I really recommend anybody going to Thailand. If you're willing to do that, you need to contact them months ahead before you go. And so Soy Dog Foundation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sandy, for joining us today and sharing your story. It was a really lovely one. Okay, so I just want to finish up by saying that it's very nice when we can be working with hotels to improve the offerings that they have, but really the most impact that we can have when we are traveling is to find local vegans that are doing really great entrepreneurial stuff, or some organizations, or even some individuals that are doing really good things. These people know the scene in their country. They are the people that are going to be able to do really amazing things with promoting veganism or animal rights or whatever cause that it is. This young woman is Citra. She is from Rwanda, and she is making the only homemade soy milk and tofu in the whole of Rwanda. And when I was there with her, she mentioned that she really wanted to expand, and she was thinking about doing a crowdsourcing, a GoFundMe as well, to raise some new equipment. These are things that, if you find out about it and you have the means, you can really support and in very effective ways by finding these people and then helping them out. And lastly, you can also support local organizations. This lovely young woman is Yang Sao. She is a Bhutanese woman that I reached out to and met, and she is just such a go-getter in Bhutan. She is doing so many things, including being involved with Jangsem Monday, which is like a meatless Monday, or Compassion Mondays, as they call it in Cambodia. And these groups, these young people are doing simply amazing things. And they really would love to to have any support they can, and they will be very effective with any money that you can raise for them. So I really encourage you to find these people and support them. Okay, so as I finished talking about the importance of supporting local organizations and entrepreneurs in the countries we visit, it's a very fitting place for me to pass the baton of the presentation over to Zach from Veg Voyages, who will talk about how we can embrace local cultures while being vegan and focus on what is already vegan or nearly vegan in many different cuisines. Thank you so much for listening to my part. Over to you, Zach.
Thank you very much, Brighde. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Paul, Donna, Margie, and Jason for all your input in organizing this event. My name is Zach. I'm the co-founder of Veg Voyages Vegan Adventure Tours and the Veg Voyages Foundation. I came to work in India on a film in 1990 and have been living in Asia ever since. My home now is in Jakarta, Indonesia, but I spend most of the year living out of my suitcase, helping coordinate our vegan cultural group tours, programs, and community-based projects in Asia, which I've been very lucky to call home for the last 3 decades. Veg Voyages is made up of a core team of 5 of us. We're close friends from 4 different countries and 4 different faiths who share a mutual love of travel, people, animals, and veganism. We started with 3 trips in India 17 years ago, and we now organize up to 27 vegan cultural adventure tours in 8 different countries in Asia every year. Our trips focus on cultural immersion and local interaction while we eat lots and lots and lots of vegan food along the way. Our primary focus of our trips is to build bridges of understanding between people. We do this by collaborating very closely with local communities to create stories through the journeys that our guests live for 2 weeks, where during their trips with us, the story that we develop with the communities unfolds. And the goal of the story is to try to help people overcome cultural barriers and have a better understanding of each other, the environment, the planet, and our relation and coexistence with each other within it. Basically what we do, it's community-based storytelling meets travel, meets veganism all in one. So the first thing I'll just briefly touch on is the cultural importance of food. I can't say it enough, actually. People often ask us, but before I get into that, I want to just kind of touch on something real quick that has to do with travel and culture. People often ask us, what is the most important thing that they should bring? One of the most important things not to bring when traveling is preconceived notions. We're all guilty of this, no matter where we come from in the world. So that leads us to the most important thing that you should bring when traveling. Right up there with your passport, make sure you bring an open mind and an open heart. There's so much we can all learn from each other, no matter where we come from, if we take the time with an open mind and an open heart to genuinely understand and really listen to each other. We then realize how much we all have in common. So that's why I put up this quote, as Maya Angelou said, perhaps travel cannot prevent bigotry, but by demonstrating that all peoples cry, laugh, eat, worry, and die, it can introduce the idea that if we try and understand each other, we may even become friends. Also, as is summed up nicely in the 2 other quotes here, food, like language, is really a gateway into other cultures. Their history, community ties, trade, spirituality, you name it, you can see it in people's cuisines. So vegan awareness through travel and food, what does that mean? Well, it's a cultural exchange. Why? Because what do we do at least 2 to 5 times a day when we travel? I like more close to 5 times a day. We eat. Eating presents a wonderful opportunity for cultural exchange. There's a great saying by a noted anthropologist who said, you identify yourself with others by eating the same thing in the same way. There's so much we can learn from each other through food and when we take the time to share a meal together. As a vegan, this gives us a chance to raise awareness in a kind and fun way. It's an opportunity to talk and share in a non-confrontational manner. What do we share? We share that vegan is not about religion, it's not about the West, and it is not expensive, but it is easy, tasty, and economical. And many dishes are just a small step from being vegan, or were traditionally vegan before. Why I say religion is that being vegan or vegetarian is often associated in Asia with religious beliefs. In Indonesia, when I first came there over 20 years ago, people thought I was a Buddhist because I was veg. In Sri Lanka, which is a majority Buddhist country, people thought I was a Hindu, as most Buddhists in Sri Lanka are non-veg, and being veg was associated with Hindus. And in America, my uncle thought I was in a cult, which I think he still does to this day. So travel and food gives us a chance to learn from each other. This is something we can do not just only in a group, but also as an individual traveler. So from group travel, most places that we go to with at Veg Voyages with our guests, with the exception of a few cities, there are no vegan places. There's no vegan restaurants, no vegetarian restaurants. We don't see this as an obstacle, but rather it's a great opportunity. So what we do is we work with local communities who don't traditionally see the benefits from tourism, and many who, up until meeting us, didn't really know much or even hear about being vegan. For our groups, well before our guests come to the country, we work with the local communities and veganize their recipes together with them. In the process, as we learn about their recipes and they learn about veganism, we all dispel some of the myths mutually associated with both of our ways of life. In many cases, as we're veganizing their dishes, they were just a couple ingredients away from actually being vegan. And in many cases, we're originally vegan until prepackaged seasoning came along. And what do I mean by that? For example, many fried tofu or tempeh snacks that you see in Indonesia, whether you're in Bali or Sumatra or Java, were traditionally vegan, but now it's hard pressed actually to find ones that are not made with some type of chicken or beef seasoning mixed in the batter. To continue a little bit more about one on group travel, when, as you see from this slide, when our group helps out at a sanctuary being developed for orangutan who can't be released back into the wild in Sumatra, our meals are prepared at a nearby convent by some wonderful Batak sisters. There's Sister Florentina, you can see in the photo there. When we first started veganizing Sister Florentina's favorite dishes with her, one misconception she had was that vegan food was more expensive. Another misconception she had was that it would taste bland. But after she veganized the dishes, she saw that vegan food can still be tasty and it wasn't expensive. What we both learned is how similar the veganized dishes that we were making was how she prepared them with her family as a child growing up in the village, where her family, like many families, would only eat meat occasionally because it was too expensive. Getting off the beaten track through travel and food gives us all an opportunity to share as well as support local communities and to learn about people through their cuisine and the connection their food has to their history and culture. So just because there are no veg restaurants there doesn't mean you shouldn't go. Please go. And again, it indirectly brings vegan awareness to communities that otherwise would not hear it. Because in these communities, there's no veg fest nearby. There's no veg restaurants nearby either. So then no longer is vegan looked at as a foreign concept, because it shouldn't. Why shouldn't it be? Because as a matter of fact, the concepts of vegetarianism and veganism on many levels, whether it's full or part-time, has been around in practice throughout different communities in Asia for not just centuries, but literally over 1,000 years. Even the idea of making mock meats has been a concept in Asia for a very long time. And I can confidently say, and I'm sure Brighde and Paul will attest to this, that some of the vegan mock meat recipes that have been around in Asia for hundreds of years would definitely give Beyond Meat or the Impossible Burger a run for their money as far as their meatiness and taste and texture is concerned. So all this being said, here's a short video showing a few veganized local recipes and some of their talented home chefs. So I just wanted to show you, so not only were all those dishes you saw there 100% vegan, but I know this sounds corny to say, but they were very tasty too. And thankfully I had a chance to try all of them. The vegan checklist here, this is just wanted to show a couple examples of vegan checklists we use for our groups. These were created, the ones you see on the screen, for homestays as part of a sustainable tourism community initiative known as the Vegan Trail Program in Nepal. These laminate charts we put up after our training sessions in each of the homestay or community kitchens. These are also being used as part of a local vegan activist vegan sister city program that has now just been started at the last part of last year in Asia. Now, this is something it's not just like reserved for group travel. You can do this as an individual traveler, and we're going to give you a few tips in the coming slides on how you can do that. But before we get into those slides, I just wanted to cover a few key tips that we'd like to give before we get into actually kind of the methodology behind veganizing food. First, don't be afraid to talk with a smile. Who doesn't like a smile? I put smile in big caps here because it's so important. A good starter is then, sorry, going to be a little difficult, then say this with a smile. Then when people realize what you're asking, it's not difficult compared to what many other people demand, trust me, and you ask politely. Then follow the big 8 slide, which we'll get into shortly. At restaurants, look over the entire menu, not just the veggie section. And because there's a veggie section, don't take for granted that the veggie section is actually vegetarian, much less vegan. If staying for some time, you can introduce the chef to local substitutes, which you can actually pick up at the local markets in the countries you're visiting. If you're coming back, leave the substitutes with them. And then when they come back, the chef already has it, they understand your dietary requirement, and they start making some great dishes using those bases. And if they do a great job and they're enthusiastic about it, like Brighde said earlier, don't hesitate to post about them on the veg socials and websites. Also, put away that bag of nuts. There's a lot of great food out there, including local snacks. The video you see down on the right-hand corner here, this is just a small selection of vegan snacks that are available in Thailand. So how to do this? Well, buy and bring local bases. Don't bring them from back home. You can actually buy them locally. Some cuisines use a lot of pre-made sauces and pastes, a lot. This is especially true in Southeast Asia. These bases can include anything from fish sauce, meat broth or seasoning, shrimp paste, oyster sauce, you name it. Picking up some of these common bases locally works well for if you're staying at a homestay, a guest house, resorts, a liveaboard, dive boats, and our favorite, at nearby local food stalls. You can get these bases in the city you arrive in. So right when you arrive in that country, you're usually going to be arriving in, obviously, in a big city. You can go to the supermarkets, local markets, or veg restaurants, which actually in Southeast Asia often act also as veg mini marts. And we recommend there you can buy the sauces or these bases that are vegan, and then bring them with you before you head out. Bringing these bases and giving them to the chef indicates that you're truly vegan also, and not just a person who says they're veg and then orders fish. Some of these key bases include veg oyster sauce, which is usually made from mushrooms, veg broth seasoning, light soy sauce, which is a great substitute for fish sauce. They have some fish sauce, vegan fish sauce out there that's made. A couple companies in Vietnam make it, as well as a company in Thailand, but some of these vegan fish sauces smell more like fish sauce than actually fish sauce does. So light soy sauce is a great substitute. Veg curry paste, most curry pastes in Thailand are not veg, and soy milk. But when it comes to soy milk, check the label to make sure it's vegan, as many are not. Right, Paul?
Paul, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, Paul.
He's
Sorry.
muted.
Okay, I'm back.
Paul, you made this great photo at the market there. You got to talk about it, please.
Thank you. I was talking, but no one was listening.
Okay.
Yeah, soy milk in Southeast Asia is dangerous for vegans. I bet you've never heard anyone say that before. Well, we believe that many vegan travelers presume it's suitable for vegans and contains no animal-derived ingredients, as you'd expect. Well, they'd be wrong, as many soy milk brands in the region contain a small amount of dairy. Okay, maybe not dangerous to vegans, but certainly very disappointing to say the least. Lactosoy are one of the most widely available brands, yet only 2 of their 7 soy milk varieties are actually vegan. For example, the most common product is the original in the blue carton on the left is not vegan, but the high calcium variety on the right in my picture is vegan, and the small yellow and red symbol with Chinese characters denotes this. Therefore, reading the ingredients and knowing what these symbols denote is essential.
And that brings us to getting to know your signs. In Southeast and South Asia, there are overlaps in product distribution, especially now. So it really helps to get to know some of the key veg signs. This is becoming more and more common. You'll find that Thai products are now readily available in Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and now even in the bigger metros in India and Nepal. Indian products now you can find in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and so on. So getting to know just a few of these key veg signs, which you can find on the products, is very helpful.
So at the top left, this is actually the J symbol in Thailand. So the thing that looks like the 17 there is actually a Thai script for vegan food or J food, and it's used on a lot of packaged local food. So many Chinese Thai people practice a vegan diet on certain days of the month and for 8 or 9 days in September and October. There are even some Buddhist sects like the Santi Asoks that are completely vegan. And during that vegetarian festival, many, many more shops and food stalls will convert their menu for the festival. And you will see flags with this little sign all over the country.
On the top right of the slide, you can see the J Chinese character. The colors of the Chinese J symbol, as you can see, are identical to the one in Thailand, which makes it very easy to spot. In Cambodia, we end up with imported products that display both the Thai and the Chinese versions of this very helpful symbol. Spotting a new product in the shops with one of these yellow and red symbols always makes me happy.
Me too, Paul. So the two green symbols you see at the bottom, one is the Indonesia recently started a vegan certification process, which was actually initiated by the Indonesia Vegetarian Society. This is actually a very thorough system that they have. It includes actually going to the manufacturing plant and inspecting it, and then they actually lab test the products. This is being rolled out on a larger scale now in Indonesia, and you'll start to see it more on products made in Indonesia. Now, India's vegetarian symbol, it's not a vegan symbol, but what we like to say is the green dot you see there, it's to read the product. So it gives you the green light to read the products, but not necessarily to eat it. Again, because it's for vegetarians, not vegans. But because of the many languages in India, products in India in general, all the labeling is done in English. Or at least if it's done in Hindi or in Tamil, you'll also have English on there so that the product can be distributed throughout the country, because English is the bridge the gap language. So when you see the green dot, then you can go to the label and say, okay, cool. I can read it and see, is this not just vegetarian, or is it just vegetarian, or is it also vegan? Now, conveniently, in India, this system is also used and seen on soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, and even booze. If you go to their wine shop, which is like a liquor store, you can go see beer, wine, and hard alcohol actually will have the green dot on there. There is actually a vegan certification symbol and system developing in India as we speak, and we're hoping to see it soon. So once you get to know your symbols, these are some key ones to learn out there, then we got the big 8, what we say. And these are 8 simple tips to keep in mind to help you along your vegan trip. Okay, it actually spells out to be learning. The first one is language. Like we just said, learn the symbols as well as learn the local veg phrases. You can find these phrases easily online, either at happycow.net, in the Veg Passport, or on Google. Include actually having the local translation on your phone in local script, or have it written down, as this helps sometimes when the tonal pronunciation isn't exactly on. There are many other resources now, including translations apps, but some of them are not actually right on. So try them out, whatever verbiage you get, try it out at a local veg restaurant when you get there, and just to double check to see if the terms are correct. For our guests, actually, we give them on arrival, because we do daily language lessons. So one of the first cards they get is actually the whole breakdown on words that they can use. And this one is not laminated yet, but this one actually has then the Laos script. This is for Laos. Okay. Now, the next part is accept, and this is the key. If there is no other choice and nothing else is working when you're trying to communicate, never just say, I don't eat meat. This will not make a dish vegan. It will be a dish that may not have meat, but it may have meat broth, fish sauce, oyster sauce, shrimp paste, ghee, milk, eggs, butter, or any combination of the above. So unless you there's nothing else that you're saying communication-wise and it's not working, don't just say, I don't eat meat, okay? And the next one is at restaurants, avoid curries, okay? Gravies, sauces, dishes, and soups. I know this is bad news to say. unless you are at a vegan or vegetarian restaurant, or you are certain that what the base is made of. I know this is a bummer again, but a lot, and I mean a lot of curries, and this goes for also in the US, sauce-based dishes, pastes, and gravies are pre-made, as is the normal industry practice at restaurants. So the non-vegan ingredients can't be taken out, okay? If you order a dish they can make from scratch, only then can you actually make sure that it's absolutely vegan.
So point forward, while vegetarian and vegan food has a really big history in Asia, it doesn't always play out that a food that looks vegan will be vegan. So as Zach mentioned before, it's a really good idea to take some written language to help you with those questions and be specific, because oyster sauce, fish sauce, meat broth can really creep into your dishes. Number 5, there's a lot of very tempting street food or hole in the wall food, these very small, basic, very cheap eateries where they have a lot of prepared food. Often it's prepared for people to grab a bit and take it for their lunch to have at work. But these dishes, they will often have shrimp paste or oyster sauce. However, there are a lot of vegan hole in the wall places, or J hole in the wall places that are vegan and worth checking out. These are excellent and super cheap as well. Number 6, if you are ordering salads or sambals, a lot of Southeast Asian salads are so incredible, really great texture, very spicy often, and much more than just lettuce. These items, as well as sambals, will often have fish sauce in. So if you can get them prepared, which is commonly done, it's very common practice to prepare something to someone's taste. You can often get this made for you, although there could be some cross-contamination, of course, but it depends on how you feel about that.
And then on to number 7, using the net to research with your trip is not only essential, but I find it lots of fun. As I mentioned previously, Happy Cow is a go-to resource I'm sure you're all aware of, where you'll find up-to-date reviews for the best vegan spots in town. In addition, there are some excellent vegan travel blogs and websites with a wealth of vegan travel information. Of course, you should check out Vegan Food Quest if you're coming to Cambodia or Southeast Asia. Also, make sure to bookmark The Nomadic Vegan, which is the work of our friend and fellow panelist, Wendy. And number 8, every country have their own pastes, and getting to know the pastes and sauces and stocks that are used throughout multiple dishes, so that, I've lost my track there, apologies. What was I talking about? Yeah, getting to know the stocks and sauces and pastes of each of the local dishes is very important, and rightly one of the big 8 rules. In Cambodia, you'll almost certainly find fish sauce, prahok, which is fermented fish paste, and chicken powder, otherwise known as chicken stock, in almost all dishes by default. Put it this way, if you order a vegetable curry, as Zach said, it will almost certainly not be vegan unless you are somewhere that is catering for veggies and vegans, or you're able to explain your request for no animal-derived ingredients. And that's why number 7 is so important. You really need to do your research on the net before traveling.
Okay, just a quick side note before we move on to the last slide. With all the above being said, it may sound difficult, but trust us, it is not. It just takes a little getting used to, and it is well worth it. And though the idea of plant-based food has been around a long time in Asia, the term vegan is relatively new, but it is beginning to be seen and heard a lot more than it was just a few days ago, or a few years ago. And this is a good example of it is the Himalayan Vegan Festival, which is one of the prizes for this webinar. And it's 3 days, 3 nights patron pass package to the event. Both members of the Meatless Monday that Brighde was showing earlier, and also the team at ARC, the Animal Rights Club in Nepal, that's at the forefront of banning elephant ride and exploitation. You saw on the slides earlier, they're all part of the organizing committee. A lot is happening on a grassroots level for veganism in Asia right now, and local activists, including many youth, are taking the lead. So on to the last slide. One last note, and this is very key. Empathy, as it is defined in the dictionary, is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. For many, this is what prompted us to be vegan, when we could see, feel similar attributes in animals that we related to ourselves, such as the feelings of suffering, happiness, compassion, fear, sympathy, love, sadness, joy, and pain. Now, as much as ever before, as the planet nears 8 billion people, the same could be said. We need more empathy within our own species too, between cultures and between people. And what a great opportunity to practice this through travel and food. Thank you very much, very, very, very much for your time and patience this evening. We much greatly appreciate it.
We have some questions. And I think Jason and I are going to split the questions, and there were some comments as well, which just probably need to be talked about. A couple of people asked about the Cambodian reel. I mean, how much is it? Do you know what the currency conversion is?
I can take that. It's around 4,000. I actually changed some yesterday and got 4,070.
Okay.
The only benefit is that you get slightly more real than they'll give you in the shop. You can spend dollars more or less everywhere, but they will often, especially in the bigger shops, give you an unfavorable exchange rate. So there is some benefit. Bring dollars and then change some dollars so you have local currency as well. It certainly helps in the local market.
Okay. And before we end this too, I want people to know that you really want to watch all of the videos, because that's going to be a part of the contest tomorrow. We're going to have some pop quizzes. But so the second question, then I'll let Jason take over. How much, this is for Paul, how much would a meal at a fancy hotel restaurant cost?
Cambodia offers incredible value for money. The best hotels in town run far less than even their Thai and Vietnam neighbors, and certainly far less than the States or Europe. To give you an example, at Treeline Urban Resort, which I spoke about, most of the mains on their vegan menu are $7 or $8. So a meal with wine for two of you would probably be around $50. Bottle of wine, 20 something, and your meal $15 odd each. So it's very reasonable. And just one other point, there's the only restaurant in Cambodia that's found its way onto the San Pellegrino top 50 restaurants in Asia list. They have a 8-course vegan degustation menu, and it's $26 US, which is it's ridiculously cheap. So the food is incredible value for money, even in the best locations.
Cheaper for me to go there than stay here right now.
That's what I was going to say.
So I'm going to pass this off to Jason for a little bit, but I do see some of my clients here. I see Eric and Alyssa Free, and who else is here? I got the Strelos. So hi. Anyway, Jason, go ahead.
Good to see everybody. So I'm just going to run through some of the questions that we had in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to keep adding them. We will ask all the questions and get you your answers. First one comes from Catherine. She was wondering, is it correct that Wat means place of worship in terms of Angkor Wat?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thoy wants to know, are there any vegan buffets now, or was that only pre-COVID?
Would that be for Brighde? Because Thailand.
I think that was for you, Paul, in terms of Cambodia.
Okay, there really are very few vegan buffets here. We don't have the same sort of J buffets that you would find in Thailand, and the only buffets that were here prior to COVID were at some of the expat-facing or Western-run restaurants, which were very good, some great vegan barbecues and vegan buffets, but sadly to say, they're all not operating at the moment. Siem Reap is more or less on shutdown, other than the expats that choose to call it home. But they'll be back, I'm sure.
I hope so. I think that's what we're all hoping for. And Zach, what about in Thailand?
As far as vegan buffets?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have buffets that it's technically, if they're J, then they're falling into being vegan. You have to be careful at some of them because they'll also be mixing in. But yes, Brighde, I think you would say the same where you were in Thailand.
Sure, yes. I've talked a little bit about those hole-in-the-wall restaurants. These are essentially like a buffet because they are so cheap. These places, they'll often have the choice of maybe 20 different dishes, and you don't help yourself. You point to the things that you want, and it'll be like, gosh, 40 baht a plate, so it'll be like $1.10, $1.20 for a plate of food, and then of course you can go back and get some more. So it's kind of like a buffet, really. And there are several vegan hotels as well. I'm thinking of some specifically in Chiang Mai, and there are also, I know Paul has a lot of these listed on his blog, but there are a lot of places. I'm thinking of the Everson in Hua Hin, which has an amazing breakfast buffet as well, which has a huge vegan section. So definitely there is, but I don't know whether things will be quite the same with COVID, with buffets. I think buffets have sort of fallen out of fashion for a while. I could be wrong, but that's my hunch.
And I think that was one of the reasons why that was asked, because a lot of buffets have gone by the side. But what you're discussing, where you pick out what you want and they give it to you, is probably going to be the way to go these days.
Brighde, I love to pick and choose vegan restaurants.
So do I.
Restaurants,
I
I love them. Yeah.
I just quickly add, Brighde, sadly, Everson Hua Hin is currently closed.
Oh.
Which
So,
is, I'm pretty sure it'll be back. They're probably taking the opportunity to rebrand and renovate, ready for when tourists come back. But yeah, it's a great option if and when it does reopen.
Yeah, they even have an incredible cooking school too, or did.
The cooking school is phenomenal. Vegan.
Hopefully we'll be able to see them start opening up again soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question from Judy: how do local folks in Cambodia, etc., react to your veganism? She stated that she knows the French are quite skeptical. Same for the Italians, but they're gracious about it. So she was just wondering what the experience is like in Asia.
You know, they're interested. It's certainly not as common as it is in Vietnam or Thailand, where you can find a whole group of vegan eating locals in whatever location you are. That's really not the case in Cambodia. And there's a little bit of perhaps going back to the troubles the country has faced in recent years, where they couldn't afford to eat meat and they couldn't afford to eat fish. And then they see vegans coming, or foreigners or visitors choosing not to eat fish and meat, and they're somewhat confused, because for many years they couldn't afford to, and now they can. Why would we, when we can afford to, choose not to? So back to the outreach thing, it's just about trying to talk and educate and link with as many people as you can, and slowly it's becoming more understood. And I think Ban Lai restaurant, which I mentioned back in my part of the presentation, when there were tourists in town, it was 90% or more tourists in his restaurant, and he was selling a lot of banana flour fish and chips. Now there are no tourists here, so he has 95% locals. He's changed his pricing. His whole menu is now in Cambodian riel instead of dollar. It's cheaper, and he has a whole host of Cambodian dishes veganized, where people are coming to eat them and being amazed and surprised at how delicious these alternatives are. So slowly, but it's certainly moving in the right direction.
Great.
And
Can I
they're
add to that a little
gracious.
bit?
Yeah, sure, of course.
For sure.
Yeah. So speaking about Thailand, because of the religious connotations of in avoiding these kinds of dishes, what I have experienced, and whether people are just being polite, because people are very polite, that there is really, you definitely get this idea that this idea of making this choice is something to be respected, because it's considered of like a level of sacrifice. When I talked about, you know, you have these vegetarian festivals and you have these times when you don't eat animal products for certain days of the month. This is considered something like a little bit stoic, let's say. So often it's when you explain that you are vegan or J, if it's just quicker and easier to say that, it's often met with, oh, wow, that's amazing. You must be very strong. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're very friendly and supportive. So there's not that sort of disdain that you might get in other places.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I found that in Thailand as well. I find that all the time in Thailand, and also as well as even when I first came to India, the idea that, okay, veganism is not a big thing in India yet, but even the idea that something that you're in the realm of being vegetarian is looked on with respect, rather than where I grew up in Southern California, where back then it was not. So again, I was a member of a cult. I'm sure a lot of us out there
Oh,
can
no,
relate to that.
no way.
I was going to add that Penelope has stated that she was told when she was in Thailand to ask for what the monks eat instead of asking for vegan food. Is that something you've encountered yourselves?
Who'd like to answer that? I'm happy to.
You answer and I'll chime in after.
Yeah, so when monks go around collecting the offerings in the morning, every single monk goes out around sunrise, and they do like they follow a certain pathway, and then local people who want to make merit, they'll be waiting outside, and they will give a bag of food or something to put in the alms dishes, and then they'll continue to walk on. Maybe they'll do a blessing of some sort, and then when they've done their walk around, they have their neighborhood that they go around every day. They'll go back and they'll have, I think, 2 meals before noon. But the food that they are not given is actually vegan. Many monks in Thailand, there's this idea that they should accept and eat whatever is put in their alms bowl. So for this reason, I would be very surprised if there are many monks who are consistently vegan as well. And often the monks, they are often just doing 2 or 3 weeks in the monastery. They're not necessarily long-termers as well. Like, they're not spending their entire life there. Every single Thai young man must go into the monastery for a short period of time. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me that they would always be eating vegan food. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. I wouldn't say monk food. I've heard some people say that. And even actually the Thai definition of monk food could also include dairy. And actually most Thai monks are not vegetarians, much less vegan. There's not a strong vegetarian push or emphasis in Theravada Buddhism, which is the form of Buddhism that's practiced in Thailand. So the safest way to say is J. Like Brighde had brought up in the characters, that then they'll understand what J means. But not to say to eat what monks eat, and not to get into the long story behind where the word J came from, but it's not connected with Theravada Buddhism or Buddhism on that level. And Theravada Buddhism especially. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't say for say monk food. I would say J is your safest bet, and most people, especially in the cities and the metros, will understand in Thailand what that means.
That's great. This
So
is exactly why we're having this conversation.
We just have one more question. I'm going to combine it actually, because it was something I was looking at. There was somebody who, and I don't know who it was, who was, and we actually have to let you guys go at this point after this question, but there was somebody who said, is there an easy way to determine whether any given sanctuary truly has animal welfare and ethics in mind? And the thing that I was also adding to this is that I remember that TripAdvisor no longer promotes elephant rides. They don't promote animal events anymore, apparently. That happened a couple of years ago. So
I would say,
want to respond to that?
I'd quickly add, I'd sadly say there's no easy way. It's just an absolute minefield to try and digest the information and speak to the relevant people and do the research to try and find out. And no, it's very, very difficult. And I've had, arguments and debates with other vegans and other travelers where one of us has believed one place is doing the right thing and the other has reasons to believe that they're not. I could name some, and some of the very well-known sanctuaries in the region have huge detractors who feel that they're financially motivated as opposed to protecting the species or saving the animals.
Right.
Yet there are others that go along and believe that they're doing the right thing. So sadly, it's very, very difficult. I can't offer any advice as to where to find that information.
Right, right. I've done some
Just
research.
all I can speak is from my own personal experience.
Right, right.
And even that, when I talk about earlier Elephant Valley project, that was based on a 3-day research prior to, and then a 3-day visit, and
Right.
speaking to owners and operators and trying to understand. I cannot guarantee.
We can't guarantee it.
You
It
know,
just, yeah.
facts.
I mean, I only know of one, I think in Thailand that I know of is supposedly a good, yeah. And that's what, you know, us travel agents are here for, to help you decipher all of that as well. The ethical travel agents anyway, and tour operators.
I did want to add, Donna, that we had lots and lots of great comments about Veg Voyages, about World Vegan Travel, saying they've had wonderful experiences.
Yes.
I don't know how many of those people you paid for those great comments, but they were rolling in each and every minute of the presentation.
Yes.
Also had Sandy shared some links for Soy Dog. Just wanted to let everybody know that after this presentation, everybody who registered will get an email with some links. You'll get the recording. We're going to share all these resources so that you can see how you can help organizations that are doing good and can stay in contact with us after the event.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. This was great. This was very helpful. And we'll see you tomorrow not tomorrow morning, Thursday morning. So hopefully
9 a.m. Eastern time.
What's that?
9 a.m. Eastern time.
9 a.m. Eastern time. Be sure to check up on the rest of the videos if you haven't seen them, because there will be questions coming from there. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's just wait. Move. Yeah, almost done here, guys.